If you've ever sat in class nodding along like you totally get it, and then you looked at your homework later and thought, wait, what? Or maybe you're the student who zones out the second things get confusing, hoping that somehow that information is just gonna magically make sense overnight or by test day, and it doesn't, obviously. Or if you've ever felt like you got it in class, like what the teacher was saying made sense, but then later that night when you're trying to do your homework, you're just like, I don't even know what this is, no way. Then this video is exactly for you. Now let me make this super clear. Getting confused is literally part of learning. It is a thing and it is supposed to happen. We're supposed to struggle with new information. That is how neural pathways form. That's literally how learning as a process works. Getting something like a new fact or a process or a concept outside of our brains from a textbook or a lecture or something we're reading into our brains is hard. And I'm sorry if you've ever been under the impression that it's supposed to be easy. I'm sorry if this whole time you've been thinking that something is wrong with you every single time you're learning a new thing and it's confusing. It is supposed to be. So let today, this moment right now, be the moment you finally understand that learning is supposed to be confusing and it's not you. But, this is a huge but, there is a massive difference between getting confused and staying confused. One is normal, the other is a choice. Today I'm sharing exactly what to do when you don't understand what you're learning, plus some strategies to try to prevent that confusion in the first place. Hi, I'm Katie Azevedo of SchoolHabits.com. I'm a private study skills and executive function coach who teaches people to learn and work smarter. I do this in my private coaching practice and my 3 online programs, School Habits University, which teaches you the 6 key pillars for getting good grades without a ton of work, the Assignment Management Power System, which is a masterclass in task management, and the Note-Taking Power System, which is my exact system for taking notes that make studying way easier. All of those programs are linked below. Okay, let's start with some tough love. That's kind of my approach, so that's that. If you've been here before, you probably know that. School is basically one giant exercise in learning things that you have never seen before. Every single day, you will be taught things that you don't know. And I'm going to state the obvious here, but that can get confusing. Here's what separates the students with good grades from those with less good grades. Like, how do I be gentle? Less good grades. They think that the confusion is the problem, but it's not. Not doing anything about your confusion is the problem. So in part 1 of this video, I'm going to show you how to reduce your chances of getting confused in the first place. And then in part 2, we're going to cover what to do when that confusion hits anyway, because like I said, it will. So part 1, how to prevent confusion or at least reduce it. Prevention strategy number 1 is actually care about what you are learning. And this is gonna sound harsh, but I need you to hear it. There are 2 types of students in this world. Type 1, the student who approaches every assignment thinking like, how do I just get credit for this? They don't care if they understand it. They just want their check mark, their points, their grade. And these students are the ones who are always confused and often in tears. Type 2 is a student who approaches assignments thinking like, what am I supposed to be learning here? And they ask this question repeatedly and repetitively, making sure that they're getting what they're studying as they're studying it. They actually want to understand the material and not just get the credit points or the check mark for it. Guess which student has an easier time in school? Type 2 every single time. And I know it is so tempting to just chase the check mark and trace the points and the credits. Like, I get it. I know you can get away with it and that you think you beat the system, and that can make us feel really good. But that approach always makes everything harder in the long run. When you actually care about understanding what you're learning for the sake of learning the dang thing, you spend so much less time confused and school is so much easier. Prevention strategy number 2, go to class. And I can't believe I actually have to say this, but here we are. Skipping class is literally choosing to be confused. Like, you're actively, deliberately deciding to miss explanations and examples and connections that you cannot get on your own. Choosing to skip class is like saying, I can't wait to have no idea what's going on. Here's what happens when you skip class. You miss the lecture, so you get confused. On your homework, in the next class, all the things. And because you're confused, you want to skip more because you're like, well, what's the point? This is too hard. So you skip more class, which makes you 1,000 times more confused. And eventually you're so lost that catching up feels impossible, and sometimes it actually is. It is a vicious cycle that you chose. You didn't choose to get confused. Remember, that is normal. We're going to talk about that. But you chose to skip class, which guaranteed confusion, and then you chose to stay confused day after day. And listen, I hear college students all the time saying like, I can just teach myself the material or, get it from the textbook or the slides, or I'll just watch the recorded lecture later, but they don't. And even if they do, it is not the same at all, because your professor explains things during class that are incredibly hard to figure out on your own. They give context, they're helping you make connections between ideas and in concepts, they're answering questions in real time, they lead class discussions that make the material easier to get, right? And you can't get that from a recording at 2x speed at 11 p.m. in your dorm room by yourself. You think you can, never works out. If you miss a class here and there, that's no big deal because life happens, but missing multiple classes in the same unit on purpose, you are guaranteeing and asking for confusion. Now, prevention strategy number 3, take notes during class. So not note taking in class will make you more confused. I have high school students tell me that they are embarrassed to take notes because no one else is doing it, or they wait for the teacher to specifically say, okay, people, take out your notebooks and write this down. And in my sweetest voice, with a smile on my face, I lovingly say, get over it. This is your education we're talking about. If you're embarrassed, for real, nobody cares. Listen, I'm saying this with love, but this is my approach, okay? You want chocolate, I'm giving you broccoli. Taking notes is not just about having something to study from later. That's huge. Obviously, if you don't have notes, you have nothing to study from. So it's definitely about that, but it's about processing the information as you hear it. When you take your notes, you are forcing your brain to kind of chew on and mess with the material in real time. That's why I created my note-taking power system, because most students have no idea how to take good notes. They either write nothing or they transcribe absolutely everything word for word, which is actually just as bad, or they're using some AI note-taking app which captures everything with no hierarchy, and then they're like, what do I even do with these notes? None of that works. And then they think that note-taking itself doesn't work, so they stop. It honestly makes me sad, because good notes require you to extract the meaningful information, put it in your words, and organize it in a way that makes sense to you. But most people aren't taught how to do that. Without notes, everything your teacher says basically disappears the second the class is over, or even basically the second that they say it. And then when it's time to study, you have nothing if you didn't take notes except for your confusion. All right, that was 3 strategies to prevent confusion. Don't try to hack the work just for the credit. Care about the learning, right? Go to class and take notes. But what do you do if you're already confused? Because even with the best prevention strategies, confusion's gonna happen, especially when you're learning complex material, you're in hard classes, or maybe you have a disorganized teacher who doesn't explain things well. So strategy number 1, I want you to recognize your confusion. And this is called metacognition. This sounds obvious, but many students don't even recognize they're confused until it's too late. So I want you to pay attention to these warning signs, probably when you're sitting in class. Could happen when you're taking notes and doing your own work too, but when you're in class, these are the warning signs that you need to use a strategy. You're zoning out in class. You feel that creeping anxiety in your chest. You're nodding along, but you could not explain what was just said. Your notes make no sense if you took them at all, and you don't understand what the professor is saying. This is metacognition, okay? Thinking about your own thinking. The second that you notice confusion or zone out, or that you don't know what's going on, that is your cue to do something about it. Waiting or ignoring your confusion is a choice. That's the choice we were talking about. It's not your fault you got confused, but it's your choice if you stay confused. It's not a good choice. But then you have nobody to blame but yourself. Strategy number 2, ask for clarification. But you can't do that unless you do strategy number 1, was saying whoa, I'm gone. I don't know what's happening. That's always strategy number 1. And then now we can ask for clarification. The world's most basic strategy is to raise your hand. And I know you don't want to. Some students refuse to raise their hand. Your teacher wants you to ask questions. It's literally their job to answer them. And I guarantee that other students are confused about the exact same thing. So when you ask a question, the other people in your class are like, thank you. You could just say, could you please give us another example? Or could you please repeat that last part? Or I'm not following how we got from A to B, right? And then the teacher will answer the question and you will be less confused. And that's how it works. For some reason, people are like, I can't raise my hand in class. Then why are you taking classes? And if you're in college, then why are you paying for a class if you're not gonna engage in it? It makes no sense to me. Strategy number 3, use your portal resources. Teachers post videos, practice questions, study guides, extra explanations in the learning management system, your LMS. And people often ignore them because these things aren't required. You're not getting a grade for it. Students are like, this isn't for a grade, so I'm not doing it. And then those are the exact same students who are like, I don't understand anything and I'm failing. Do you see the connection between those two things? Those supplementary materials aren't busy work. They're literally there to help you understand the material better. And especially if you're in college, it's not their job to be like, okay, folks, don't forget to check your portal for the learning resources. That's what the portal is for. Use the resources, watch the videos, do the practice problems, read the extra explanations. I don't care that you don't get credit for it, and you shouldn't either. You know what you do get though? is understanding, which leads to better test scores, which leads to better grades and a better GPA. And isn't that what you're looking for? Like, isn't that why you're watching this video? Strategy number 4, expect it to be hard and then stick with it. So understanding rarely, if ever, happens on the first try. And a lot of students think that if they don't get something immediately the first time they heard it during class, or like the first time maybe they read it, that there's something wrong with them, that they'll never get it, and that is so completely untrue. I've already said this, but learning is supposed to be uncomfortable. Your brain is literally building like new neural pathways. It takes effort, it takes repetition and time, way more than we want it to. But that's just the reality. Like, just like digestion and bone plate growth is a process, so is actually getting information from the outside of our head inside of our head. Like, we can't rush that the same way we can't rush bone growth. You know what I mean? So read the thing again, watch the video again, work through the example again. Most breakthroughs come on like the 3rd or 4th or 5th pass through it, not the first. And the students who succeed aren't the ones who get it right away. They're just the ones who stick with it when it's hard, because they know it's supposed to be hard the first time through. All right, strategy number 5, get help from a teacher, a TA, or a tutor. So if you have reviewed your notes, you've checked the portal resources, done more than checked them, you actually went through and thoroughly gave yourself to them, and you're still lost, it's time to get some help. It's fine. That's like what help is there for. Go to office hours, schedule a meeting, send an email, get a tutor. If you're regularly confused in class or in school, but you never go to office hours or extra help, then like, what are you complaining about? That's like slamming your head against a wall all day long and then complaining that it hurts, or worse, blaming the wall, right? Remember, most classes are cumulative too, which means that if you're confused about chapter 3, you're going to be confused about chapter 4 and 5 and 6 and 7. And by then, catching up is going to be really hard to do. Strategy number 6, manage your time. Look, we all know what happens when we start an assignment at 11 p.m. the night before it's due. We start to panic, we do things sloppily, and now even the super easy stuff looks hard because we're stressed about it. When we're stressed about a deadline, our brains quite literally cannot learn new material. That's because stress and anxiety flood the brain with chemicals that affect the parts of the brain responsible for memory consolidation, or learning, fancy way to say learning. So now you're confused and you're panicked. But that's just your biochemistry. Like, you can't just tell yourself to calm down and learn better. At that point, if you're already panicked because it's last minute, like, your brain state is what it is, and there's not really much you can do about it. And I'm not going to lecture you about starting things earlier, because obviously you've heard that before. You've probably heard it a million times because it's true. When you start your homework or studying 3 hours before it's due, or less than that, and you hit something confusing, like you're done, there's no time to watch a video or ask a friend or go to TA office hours or try any of the strategies that I just taught you. Students with good grades and less stress, they start their problem set on Tuesday instead of Thursday, or they start on Monday instead of Thursday. So when they get stuck on Tuesday, they have Wednesday to figure it out. That's literally the only difference. You gotta manage your time so that you have enough time to do the work. And then when you get confused, which you will, you'll have time to deal with it. All right, strategy number 7, form study groups and use outside resources. So your friend might explain a concept in a way that's easier to understand than the way the teacher said it. Or maybe if you're trying to explain something to a friend, you'll actually understand it better, because explaining things to others clarifies our own thinking. That's why study groups can be helpful. And if you can't learn from a study group, or you don't want to, or you don't have enough people in your social unit to form a study group, you can use YouTube, you can use Khan Academy, you can even use ChatGPT to explain concepts to you over and over and over again till you get it. If you're confused and you need something explained like 17 different ways, AI can actually be useful for that, as long as you prompt it well, as long as you feed it good resources to work from, like from your professor. And check, obviously, not only its facts, because this is wrong all the time, oh my God, but check your understanding along the way. All right, so I want this to be a key takeaway from the video here. Confusion is not evidence that you're bad at school, and it is not permanent. It is a completely normal part of learning, but staying confused is a choice. That's on you. So the moment you start getting fuzzy or thinking like, what the heck is a teacher saying? Or I have no idea how to do this problem set, that's your moment to act, because everything hinges on what you do next. And even if you use half these strategies, caring about learning and not just the credits, actually going to class, come on, like, shall be doing that, taking real notes, recognizing confusion early, asking questions, using your resources, expecting it to be hard so we don't cry when it is, getting help, managing your time, just a fraction of those strategies, you can straight up change everything about your entire school experience, starting with your grades. Because I said confusion is temporary, but only if you do something about it. Waiting for confusion to magically disappear is wishful thinking, and wishful thinking doesn't pass tests. Okay, my friend, Your assignment is to pick one thing you're currently confused about and use one strategy from this video to get at it. And tell me in the comments which strategy you're using first, or share what subject always confuses you, or just say hi in the comments. If this video was helpful, please like and subscribe. Again, you can find my programs linked below. As always, I appreciate you and thank you so much for watching.